All right, everyone, welcome to Strictly Sports. I am Jacob Brown. I'm joined here with Stephen Cash, and we're going to do our 2020 Pittsburgh Pirates season preview. We're doing 30 baseball pods in 30 days. We have nothing to do here on this quarantine, and this is what we want to do. We just want to talk sports, and today we're going to do the last place finisher in the NL Central last year, the Pittsburgh Pirates. So welcome, Stephen. How you doing?
Doing good. Still holding out hope. Still stuck in our houses, but getting some optimism news from Bleacher Report last night. They said that baseball, they're looking at routes where they could go to play in some empty stadiums in one remote area. So I don't know how accurate that is, but still something to ping off of and holding out hope there'll still be a MLB season, but uh, definitely still excited for the upcoming year.
We'll take anything at this point. I mean, there's nothing on TV anymore. I'm tired of watching old games. I'm not a WWE guy. I mean, I don't watch things that are fake. So that's my view on that. But we have heard that maybe they'll be able to play at some quarantined area or something, but that's a little bit of a ways off. This has also been reported since the last time we recorded as well. But the service time rule for this year. So if there are no major league games played this year, it will count as a year of service for these players, which means, for example, Mookie Betts on the Dodgers, he was on he had 1 year left on his current contract. That would mean he would be a free agent if there are no games played this season. So it would definitely alter, to say the least, a lot of teams' plans for the 2020 season. But I'm sure, those things would get worked out. But that's just something to put out here before we start talking here about the Pittsburgh Pirates. The way we'll do it, we'll go lineup, rotation, bullpen, and then talk about prospects and where we think they'll finish in the division. So let's start with that lineup. Adam Frazier, the second baseman, is leading off. He hit 10 home runs and 50 RBIs last season. And we're going to get into a little bit more sabermetrics here than we have in the past. He had a weighted run created plus of 306. Basically, that means any weighted run created plus of 100 or over your major league average or above. So that means he's 6% above major league average. Excuse me, that was the wrong stat. Excuse me. His weighted run created plus is 97. That's my bad. So he's 3% under major league average. And then he has a 320 WOBA. WOBA is basically a stat that is a different way of describing slugging percentage, except it includes walks and hit by pitches. So it's a much more inclusive stat. And 320 is the major league average on that. So he is right at average. Then Brian Reynolds is the two hitter. He hit 314 with 16 homers, 83 ribbies last season with 37 doubles and a 371 WOBA, weighted run created plus of 131. Gregory Polanco missed last year, a lot of it. He only played 42 games in 2018. He had 23 homers and 81 RBIs. Then Josh Bell, the real big guy in this lineup, he's cleaning up and playing first base. He had 277 with 37 home runs, 116 RBIs, 37 doubles, a weighted run created plus of 135. So he's well above major league average. And then his WOBA was 378, also significantly above major league average. That 378 sitting in the great range, according to Fangraphs. Then Colin Moran, the third baseman, hits fifth. Then Kevin Newman, the shortstop. Jacob Stallings, the catcher. And then Gerard Dyson, the center fielder. So you look at that lineup. It's not star-studded, but they do have four hitters in that lineup. Actually, yeah, four hitters in that lineup that are major league average or better. So what is your take on this Pittsburgh Pirates lineup, Steven?
Yeah, like you said, they're a very young team. Not many guys in that lineup will stand out to you, but the youth of the lineup, you got Frazier at the top at 278 last year. Josh Bell, definitely a guy who's going to get better as time goes on. Batting 277 last year, 37 homers, 116 RBIs. He was in that elite group last year. We were talking about potential MVPs, but having a 5.69 slugging percentage, a guy who really can drive the power for that offense, something they can work around. But I look at the lineup; they're very young, and looking the last 2 years, the trades that they made, they got rid of a lot of young talent. They got rid of Austin Meadows in a trade to the Rays. They got rid of Tyler Glass now in that same package deal to get Chris Archer. So look at this
That
lineup,
might
and
be one
they
of the worst trades ever.
yeah, I was looking at this team, and I go, who is managing that? Who's at the upper ends? And I'm like, wow, like you got rid of so many young prospects that were major league ready, and now you're working with some guys like Gerard Dyson, Jacob Stallings, so guys that are not really people you want to not lean on through a 1 through 9 lineup, but definitely not the worst lineup you could throw out there. Guys are batting just above league average. My benchmark for major league average is 275. When you're up to bat, you got guys that are batting 314. Reynolds 315 last year. So definitely not a terrible lineup to throw out there, but still a lot of pieces to work on there.
I will say on your average point with the 275, I would be there with you, but I do think a lot of power hitters, they'll hit 240 to 265, and I'm fine with that out of a power hitter, as long as you're producing runs. That if you're a power hitter and that's your job to produce runs, that's mainly what I care about. But yeah, I would obviously want my batters to be hitting 275 or over, but in this state of the league, it's more power hitters are 240 to 265 in that average range. But I do like Josh Bell. He's a switch hitter, tremendous bat in the middle of that lineup. But about that Archer trade, listen, Tyler Glasnow and Austin Meadows are major league players, and not just major league players, but they are major contributors to the Tampa Bay Rays. And Steven's a Rays fan; he would know. I mean, Glasnow can throw 100 miles per hour with a nasty slider. Austin Meadows is a top 10 left fielder. Tremendous young player, maybe all-star team. These are guys that they're intricate to a contending team with the Tampa Bay Rays. And you get Chris Archer, and we'll move into the rotation here. Last year, he had 23 games started, an ERA over 5. The great thing about him is he has a 10.75 strikeout per 9 ratio, which is excellent. Anything over 10 is excellent for a major league pitcher. The problem with him is that his walks per 9 were at 4.4 per game, which is really, really bad. And then he gave up 25 home runs in 23 starts. So you look at Chris Archer, what is your take on him? Can he get better?
It's been a broken record since I've watched him debut for the Rays. And if you're a Pirates fan, you were thinking, wow, we got a guy who can really strike guys out. He can overpower guys. But watching him, his biggest flaw is walks. And he wants to strike everyone out too. It goes hand in hand. He loses control. It's great to strike everyone out. Everyone loves the strikeout stat, but if you're a pitcher, efficiency is what you want. Being in the 1 through 5 rotation, if you can go out there and give me 7 innings and roll through and give me about 100 pitches in 7 innings, Chris Archer can't get through the 5th inning. So for me, it's been a constant battle for him and his pitching coaches to get him to buy into that philosophy. Pitch to contact. You have great stuff. Don't have to strike everyone out. And then you look at his walk to 9 inning ratio. He's got about 4 walks every 9 innings, which isn't ideal. And then he was getting shelled last year too. Guys were just teeing off on him. I read an article and the beat writer for the Pirates was saying, we got a guy who we thought we can really expand on, grow with, build around, and he just got completely shelled last year and made 2 trips to the IL last year and just wasn't performing like they wanted him to after that deal they made with Tampa.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, this is a guy that it's literally been the same problem his entire career. It's just too many homers, too many walks, but he strikes people out. I mean, that's great. But if you're not producing in every other area, that's not valuable. He is listed as the number one starter. It's hard to believe that he's 31 years old already. It feels like he just got into the big leagues, but he's 31 years old now. His FIP is 5.02. The FIP stat we're going to use for pitchers a lot too. This is basically another version of ERA, except it's park adjusted and it's defense adjusted. So it's basically saying if your defense was league average, this is what your ERA would be if you were at the same ballpark, same dimensions. So his FIP would be 5.02, which is a little less than his ERA. So still, he's high in the FIP area. He needs to improve. I don't know if that can happen at this point, but, all he needs to do is trim down the walks. You go down this rotation. You have Joe Musgrove in the 2 slot in the rotation. He had a 4.44 ERA with 157 Ks and 170 innings. That's about 8 per game. That's above average. The 2 walks per 9 is considered great, and his FIP was at 3.82. So this is a guy, Joe Musgrove, young guy, 27 years old, throws some heat, 95, 97 miles per hour with some nice breaking pitches. If this is a guy that can kind of maybe trim his ERA, maybe from 4.4 to what it was a few years ago, you can trim it down to maybe 4. You're talking this guy, Zach Wheeler. I mean, Zach Wheeler had a 3.95 ERA and made $118 million. If you're Joe Musgrove, trim down your ERA by half a run, you could be in that level.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you you look at your starting pitching, if you crank down that ERA down to a 3.5, I mean, even now you look at the ERA used to be so valued, like anything above a 2.5 was bad. Now, if you just get it down to around the 3 range, you're giving yourself a fighting chance every night. And now you look at all these pitchers 1 through 5, the numbers are skewed because you're not getting as much inning production out of them. Guys are only going 5 innings now when the starting pitching role used to be 7, 8 innings minimum. But now you look at it, such a specialty role with bullpen guys. But the Pirates, I see their biggest flaw is their starting pitching. Their ERAs are mid 4s and up. They're definitely gonna have to really keen on that and just hunker down and just try to fix some of the issues there. The walks, I look at their top 4 guys, and you know the walks per 9 innings just really need to be lowered a bit for them to be successful this
I
year.
agree with you there. Then they have Steven Brault, the lefty, in the 3 slot in the rotation. Really struggled last year. ERA above 5, FIP at 4.76 in 19 starts. Then you go to Trevor Williams in the 4 slot. This is a guy, listen, 2018, he had a great year. He had 31 starts that year in 170 and 2/3 innings. He had a 3.11 ERA, and that's a really good year. His strikeouts, not that great, 6.6 per 9. That's kind of league average, below league average. But then you go to 2019, his ERA jumped from 3.11 to 5.38. Strikeouts stayed around the same, walks went down. But how does that happen? I mean, you go from a 3.11 ERA and 31 starts, your ERA jumps by over 2 runs. How does that happen season to season?
Well, you look at it too. This Pirates team, if you looked at the complete roster they had last year, just not a whole lot going right for them. They only winning 69 games, minus 153 run differential last year. So as a starting pitcher, 2018 they had a better year. Going off last year, just really everything wasn't going their way. Being a starting pitcher, we talked about balls getting booted around the infield. Your fielding percentage was low last year for the Pirates. So, and sometimes you tweak things a little bit too much. A starting pitcher wants to adjust your grip. You're working on a new pitch, but the ERA jumped. It skyrocketed for him in 2019. I think because of the fact that the team around him wasn't all that great, moving guys in and out through trades, kind of experimenting with some prospects. So, that can be a contributing factor for any starting pitcher when look at the Marlins, how bad they were last year and how high those pitchers' ERAs were. So it goes hand in hand with your rotation behind you and the guys who are in the field behind you.
Yeah, and then after him we have, and this is really the diamond in the rough for me at number 5 in this rotation to round it out, the 24-year-old Mitch Keller. He's number 39 on the top 100 prospects list. So clearly he's the number 1 prospect in the Pirates system. Last season he had a very interesting one. So at the minor league level, in 19 starts, he had a 3.56 ERA with 10.68 strikeouts per 9, which is crazy. Like I said, anything over 10 is amazing. Then he comes to the major league level and 11 starts. His ERA was really high at 7.13. His strikeouts per 9 were at 12 per 9, which isn't just excellent. That's like, all-star Hall of Fame worthy right there, 12 per 9. But his FIP was, let me see. His FIP was 3.19, ERA at 7.13. That's a 4-run difference. That tells me his ERA is definitely not in the 7s. He's probably right around where he was at the minor league level at a 3.5, which in this day and age, that's a 2 or 3 starter.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, diamond in the rough right there for Keller. I mean, that's what this FIP stat does for pitchers is everyone wants to look at the ERA and go, wow, he's 7 ERA. You can't be a starter in the major leagues. But then you look at the 3.1 FIP. That shows you, where he was pitching, who was like, errors that contributed to the fact that your ERA is so high. I mean, you look at his strikeout per nine, 12. I mean, that's unheard of. But you compare the two numbers from AAA to the major leagues. They started his major league clock for him to start. We're going to get you some innings this year in 2019. They got him feeling how the major league game goes, and this could be a guy where I would even slot him into the third spot because 1 through 3 for this Pirates ball club, not too many star-studded guys in those spots. So definitely a guy that gets more reps out there in major league time. Definitely you'll keep an eye out for Mitch Keller, a guy who is young and has a ton of
I
talent.
agree with you 100% there. We'll move to the bullpen here. Keone Kela is their closer. They have Ricardo Rodriguez, Kyle Crick. Their bullpen is really not that great. But then you look at the prospects here, and this is where I'm going to go a little hard on the Pirates here. Might be a little harsh. They did not prepare well at all for this era of their team. They traded Starling Marte, didn't get much for him. They let McCutchen go. They let all these guys go. They make that horrible trade with Meadows and Glasnow. They knew they had to rebuild. They had two major league guys. They gave them away. Now they have Cabrian Hayes, number 41 prospect at third base. It's not that impressive to me. I mean, 113 games, 10 homers, 265. This is a AAA. If you're a number 41 prospect, I want to see more than 265, 10 home runs, 53 RBIs. Then they have a shortstop prospect, O'Neill Cruz. Pretty impressive, double A, but he's a little far away. He's too young right now, a little bit far away. And then they have one pitcher that's number 10 in their system. So that means, nowhere close to the top 100. He had a pretty decent year. I just look at it and I said, these rebuilding teams, they might be at the bottom. I mean, I'd have to put Miami ahead of them in terms of how they've been rebuilding. We haven't done the Orioles yet, but I would assume the Orioles are faster along in this process. I know that the Tigers are from a starting pitcher's standpoint. So the Pirates really just have not done a very effective job at preparing for the next few years of this franchise. This is going to be a real dark period for them.
Yeah, you look at this Pirates team, and that it's going to hurt for a while for them. They're well behind the curve. We talked about the Marlins already and how they traded a lot of major league guys away, but in return they got prospects that are major league ready. The difference here with the Pirates, like we talked about, Glasnow and Meadows, were two guys who I was ecstatic to have them on the team because they were major league ready. Triple A Meadows, and Glasnow was Double A, but he had gotten so many reps, everyone knew what he had. Very exciting, great stuff. And then you look at the prospects they have here that, you have Hayes, who's in AAA, probably the closest to major league ready that you have, but 10 homers, 53 RBIs. You want that RBI run production up in the 70, 80s area if you want to be, ready to be called up. And then you look at O'Neill Cruz, still young, still far away in Double A. And, even the pitchers they have in Bolton, I mean, just too far away to even be considering to bring them up right now. So the only prospect they have working with that we talked about was Keller. So, it's going to hurt for 3-4 years until those guys are ready to go, unless they make some more trades and get guys into that system.
That's the worst part to
But
me. Who can they even trade? They don't have anyone in this lineup
yeah,
that you can get value for other than Josh Bell. So he's as good as gone.
and you can't exactly, and you can't even, and I don't think you can trade. You can't trade a guy like Bell, a guy who's going to be, a Pirate for life, potentially. It could be one of their cornerstones to building this team again and trying to get back to the playoffs. But right now, if you're a Pirates fan, it's gonna be a rough couple of years, I think, because of the fact that there's not too many guys you can lean on and call up if things are going sideways. There's not too much hope there, but we still haven't gotten started to the season yet. Baseball is one of those sports we talk about. Just it's weird every year. You never know what you're going to get, but looking at long term, they really need to hunker down and
So
do
how
some
would you
work
grade
there.
their offseason, Steven? A, B, C, D? What are we giving them?
In terms of the offseason, I would say C minus. I think you kind of stayed pat. You didn't blow the roster up. You're kind of working with the same guys you had last year. So I'd give him a C minus
Yeah,
in the
I'd probably be
offseason.
right
How
there. I
about
mean,
you?
you give away Starling Marte, who was, he's been with them forever. He's a top five center fielder. But, they had to give him away. So, yeah, I give them a C minus. I mean, there's really not much that they could have done at the end of the day to make them contenders, especially in this division. So we both have them in fifth place. I know that. It's pretty obvious. And I'm sorry, Pirates fans, we're leaving you off with a gloomy end to this, but it's just the reality with this Pittsburgh Pirates team. I mean, we're trying to, boost them up a little bit, but there's not much there. I mean, the minor league system's kind of barren. Their lineup's weak. Their rotation's weak. They're far away for sure. So that'll do it for this Pittsburgh Pirates podcast. This will upload today. Tomorrow, you're going to get our Cincinnati Reds podcast. They finished fourth place in the division last year. That's why we're doing them next. Also, we already have the Eastern Conference NBA playoff preview out on all of our platforms: Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Anchor Breaker, Radio Public, and Pocket Casts. We also have our NBA Western Conference playoff preview coming out on Wednesday, then our NHL Eastern Conference playoff preview on Friday, NHL Western Conference preview on Sunday, and then we'll have a bunch of NFL draft stuff in a few weeks. Thanks everyone for listening. For Steven, I'm Jacob, and we will see you next time.